And good evening. Thank you so much for watching Life Ahead here on PBS Fort Wayne. Of course, this is a weekly program providing vital information to adults of all ages. So we invite you to stay with us here in our Life Ahead living room. We have a very special guest tonight, and we'll be talking about planning for long-term care. And we'll talk about the process for planning, your assets involved that may be involved in the role of Medicaid, which is always a very interesting subject, and irrevocable trust, among many other things. So please give us a call. The number is on your screen. You can talk to us live on the air. We can transcribe your question. And of course, if you're new to PBS Fort Wayne, we have a new system. The way you can ask questions is by texting, and that text number is on your screen as well. And when you text, please let us know at least your first name and the city you're calling from. We'd like to give you a shout out, and thank you so much for watching. So our special guest, and he's no stranger to the program,
Nope.
It's Bryan Nugen, and he is a elder attorney, also a financial planner. And it's great to have you back on Life Ahead.
So I'm not a financial planner.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I thought you were a financial planner.
No, elder law attorney, but
Okay.
not a financial planner.
Okay, for some reason I thought you were a financial planner as well. Because
I'll leave that to somebody else.
Okay, well, very good. I'm glad you took care of that, Mr. Attorney. We got that ironed out. But all right, but we are going to be talking about perhaps some financial planning for long-term care. So I guess that's where I got that idea. And first of all, Bryan, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, about 70% of older adults will need long-term care at some point in their lives. We're talking 7 out of 10 of us.
That's right.
And so let's go ahead and figure out, from your standpoint, what defines a long-term care patient, and why would somebody need this type of care?
Sure. When we think of long-term care, we think of someone that may be staying in a nursing home, someone that may be in a nursing home for rehabilitation. So rehabilitation can take place in a nursing home facility or as part of that nursing home facility. So long-term care can be that rehab stay for an extended period of time. It could also be a stay beyond rehab, or somebody's health is failing and they go to a skilled facility, a nursing home facility.
Okay.
So when we think of long-term care, we think of outside of the home in a facility that's providing care for you.
Well, why should I consider long-term care planning? Because won't my health insurance pay for this?
So that's a great question. A common misconception is that your health insurance, Medicare, will pay for your stay at a long-term care facility. And I think that happens, as we were just talking about, is someone may go into to have a rehabilitation after a knee replacement, a hip replacement, maybe they've had a fall, something like that, and they're going into rehab. And the rehab facility happens to be adjacent to the nursing home. And so folks have the impression that I was there for rehab, my insurance, my Medicare paid for that stay. So if I were to go to the nursing home at some point in the future, that my health insurance will pay for it. But no, your health insurance does not pay for a long-term care stay. Different things may pay for your stay. We were talking just before we went on the air about long-term care insurance. That could pay for your stay if you have that. Privately, you could privately pay for your stay, so out of your savings, if you were taking funds from your savings, selling your real estate to pay for your care. It could also be through the Veterans Administration, or it could be through Medicaid.
Okay, so we have two different things, and I think a lot of people get these confused, Medicare and Medicaid.
Right.
Can you define the differences?
Sure. Medicare, you can think of that as your health insurance.
Okay.
Right? So your Medicare is your health insurance. We all get Medicare. So at a certain age, or if you have certain health conditions. But we don't all get Medicaid. Medicaid is a program that provides payment for one's care in relationship to this discussion tonight, that pays for one's care should we need help in the home as we age, or should we need a long-term care stay, a stay at the nursing home, memory care unit, etc. Medicaid would pay for that stay. So they're really distinct. Medicare is like your health insurance. Medicaid is a supplemental program. It's needs-based typically, meaning your assets and your income are such that you don't have the resources, you don't have the income to pay for your care. So we would be relying on Medicaid to do that.
So is Medicaid actually a type of long-term care insurance?
No.
Okay.
It's a governmental program.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a governmental program that has very strict regulations that are tied to it. Long-term care insurance is a product that you would buy personally using an insurance agent that sells long-term care insurance unrelated to Medicaid.
Okay.
Apples and oranges.
Well, and as you touched on, a lot of people believe Medicare will cover long-term nursing home stays, but it's the Medicaid side that actually does that.
That's correct.
Okay. What does it take to qualify for Medicaid?
So Medicaid generally looks at a few things. Number one, what's your health like? What level of care is it that you need to be able to sustain yourself either at home or assistance with your care do you need at home or in a facility? And they call that a level of care assessment. So there's an assessment done to determine how much care you require. Are you appropriate for this type of care that Medicaid would be paying for? So that's one thing that Medicaid looks at. Medicaid also looks at your income. So is your income such that it's below a threshold that's set by the state every year? Is your income below that threshold so that you would need some additional assistance to provide payment for your care? And then they also look at assets. They look at how much money you have in the bank, how much you have invested, the value of your home, those types of things. They're looking at all of those things before they're determining whether or not you should be eligible to receive Medicaid benefits.
Okay, I want to get more into that in just a second, but we have a text question coming through, and we'll get that. And I don't see where they're calling from, but it says, can I get Medicaid while living at home?
You sure can. So in Indiana, we have a program called Pathways. And Pathways is a Medicaid program. It used to be called Waiver. We now call it Pathways. But that's a program that will provide payment for care in the home. But we shouldn't be confused that if you are approved for the Pathways program, that you'll be receiving around-the-clock care 24 hours a day. That is definitely not the case. You shouldn't expect to receive that. If anything, the care that's being provided for and paid for at home right now is being reduced. But yes, if you qualify physically to require care in the home, and your income is such that it's appropriate for you to be receiving Medicaid benefits, and your assets are such that it's appropriate for you to be receiving Medicaid benefits, yes, it is possible for Medicaid to provide payment for care in the home. The program typically is done through an agency that's contracted with to receive those Medicaid dollars, and the agency, a licensed agency, would be in the home and provide care for you. So it is possible, but we shouldn't look to that to provide care 24 hours a day if you're at that point in your healthcare journey.
Okay, that sounds like wise words to me. I'm sure there are a lot of rules when it comes to assets. Can you talk about that?
So I was just mentioning about income and assets.
Yeah.
So Medicaid, when they're looking to approve you for Medicaid, they're looking at assets, how much, as a single person, how much you have in your name. So if we're looking at thresholds, no more than $2,000. You can't have more than $2,000 in your name before you're eligible for Medicaid. And we should talk about how you get to that point of having $2,000 as well. But if you're a married person, it's closer to $160,000 that you could, the maximum that you could keep if you're a married person. Okay. Medicaid takes a look at what you have as a couple. If you have a higher amount, you have to spend down to a figure, and you divide that in half. Unhealthy spouse or the spouse that needs the Medicaid, we spend their money down to $2,000. The other spouse gets to keep around $160,000.
Well, when you say the spend down, what do people normally or usually spend that money on?
Well, they can use their money for several things that won't disqualify them for getting Medicaid.
Okay, I'm glad I asked
so
that.
If they needed to make improvements to their home, in order to be able to remain in the home, they could spend money on a vehicle. Medicaid determines that you should be able to have the right for transportation if your health care requires. So you'd be able to use the money for some means of transportation. You can spend the money on anything that benefits you. What you have to be careful with is making a gift of money to someone else to say, oh, I know that my health is changing, so I'm going to gift my assets to my children, and then I'm going to apply for Medicaid. So when we gift, if we give that away, this is a cautionary tale, if we give that away, it creates a period of time during which Medicaid won't pay for your care. So let's hypothetically say that figure is around $7,800. So if you give away $7,800, Medicaid will say, we're not going to pay for your care for a period of 1 month. So you have to be very cautious about just giving your money away and not getting something in return for it. The caveat to that gift is if you made the gift a period of 60 months, 5 years or more, prior to needing the, applying for Medicaid, needing those Medicaid benefits, then in those instances, when the money was out of your hands 5 years or more before applying, we don't look at those assets as something, the gift of those assets is something that might create a penalty for you, denying you access to benefits through Medicaid for a period of time.
And you're referring to that 5-year look-back period.
So there's a look-back period, right? I hear a lot about that. The look-back period is simply within the period of 60 months prior to applying for Medicaid, what have you given away, if anything? And whatever you've given away is divided by a number. It's a divisor, that's the 7,800. It changes every year. That number really is irrelevant. The point is, there's a divisor that the state uses to apply toward how much money you've given away within the last 5 years. So let's say that the number is $7,800. The divisor that year is $7,800. The answer is 1. So if I've given away $7,800 within the last 60 months, and I'm applying for Medicaid within those 60 months, so the look back was the 5 years, the money I gave away was $7,800, the divisor at that time is $7,800, there's something called a penalty period. So it's a 1-month penalty period where Medicaid won't pay for your care. So if your cost of care is $12,000 per month, that gift that you made of $7,800 cost you not only the gift that you made, but at $12,000, somebody has to come up with that money to pay for your care. So I would caution folks about gifting as a means of getting their assets down to those figures I was talking about earlier in order to qualify for Medicaid.
Okay. All right. We do have another text question coming in from Jerry in Auburn. Hello, folks in Auburn. Jerry, thank you for your question. Who is eligible for an irrevocable trust?
Thank you. Or irrevocable.
I just said it earlier, and when I'm trying to read it, it comes out differently.
That's all right.
But I was going to actually segue into that subject anyway. So
thanks, Jerry, for asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you, as well. So in irrevocable trust, irrevocable trust, in the context of this conversation, what will happen is that, remember the gifting I was just talking about, Jerry? What will happen is if you create an irrevocable trust, and you create that trust 5 years or more before you need those Medicaid benefits, you put assets into that trust, or that trust then, those assets would be preserved within that trust, in that irrevocable trust. In the context of this conversation, we use them for other reasons, but if the money is away from you for 60 months or more, then you would be able to apply for those Medicaid benefits. Your question was, who can do that, or who is that open to? It's open to anyone. Anybody can do an irrevocable trust. What I would encourage you to do is to speak with an elder law attorney, your counsel, to make sure that it's appropriate for you. Sometimes those trusts are appropriate, sometimes they aren't. So it's difficult in the context of this quick conversation to say if it's appropriate for you or not, but many times it is appropriate. It's something to explore. It's a part of one's estate planning, part of one's trying to protect some assets and shelter assets if their care requires, or if they require care in the future. Normally those trusts are created at a time where you don't anticipate receiving care, but you may require that in the future.
So give us one example, if you don't mind, of how it would be inappropriate.
Well, it's inappropriate if you're putting money into an irrevocable trust within 5 years of needing the care.
Okay.
Because that is recognized as a gift. When it is appropriate, let's say I'm a farmer and I have farm ground, and I know that I want to make sure that that farm ground goes to the next generation. I have a lake house, and I want to make sure that lake house goes to the next generation. And I never want to sell that. I don't want to have to be forced to sell that should my health require care in the future. Oftentimes we use irrevocable trusts to make sure that those assets, those precious assets, are protected. I see that very often, them used very often with real estate, with investments. I see money put in there as well. So I'm not the financial advisor,
Right.
but we work with financial advisors to make those things happen.
Okay.
Things that you couldn't put into a trust like that would be qualified money. So a traditional IRA, an inherited IRA, those assets could not go into the trust.
Okay. All right. Thank you for ironing that
Sure.
out. We have another text coming in from Huntertown. Karen.
Yes.
She's asking, can I give away
Yep.
my money to my kids? I heard that I can give away $15,000 without it affecting me.
Great question. Thank you so much, Karen. So what you're really asking about is gift tax. So right now, if you have actually $19,000 per year in the year 2026 that you could give away per year with no gift tax consequence. So that's per year per person. So if you have 3 children, you could give each child $19,000 per year with no gift tax consequence. If you give to a person more than $19,000 in the year 2026, then you're to file something called a gift tax return. So you, as the person that made that gift, are supposed to be filing a gift tax return with the IRS saying, hey, I gave away $20,000 instead of 19. The good news is, I suppose, that you have, as an individual, around $15 million worth of credits that you can use for those gifts, so for gift and estate tax. So if you were to give to a child $20,000 in the year instead of 19, the first 19 we ignore, the next $1,000 technically is subject to gift tax. However, you have credits up to $15 million before you would have to pay any tax on that. So yes, you can make gifts to your children at $15,000, $16,000, $19,000 with no gift tax consequence. But that is really separate and apart from the conversation about protecting assets should your health require some type of care in the future. That's what I was referring to earlier, Karen. If you give that money away as a means of protecting your assets and then applying for that Medicaid to pay for your care within 5 years, you're going to create a penalty. So I'm always very cautious about folks looking at doing their estate planning or protecting assets by gifting. If you gift to a child, it's great today, but we don't know in the future what may happen with the child. The child may have some type of a disability, right? That may develop in the future. If the child passes and you're asking the child to hold the money for me, although we can't do that with a gift, I often hear people saying, I'm going to have the child hold the money for me. The issue is if that child has a divorce or they have debt issues, the money is gone. So we have to be very careful about gifting, why we're doing it, and how it may affect you negatively at some point in the future. That having been said, if you care to gift to your children, by all means do it, understanding that the gift means you have no control over it, it's not your money anymore, it's theirs to enjoy. By all means, Karen, go for it. But yep, you can give $15,000 a year, you can give actually $19,000 a year without having to worry about filing a gift tax return.
Okay. Another text coming in from Dory of Fort Wayne. And she is asking, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm having this
Irrevocable.
trouble. Irrevocable, thank you.
Yeah.
Irrevocable sounds like a great tool. Why doesn't everyone use it? And why isn't it more common? That's a good question.
I will say in my world, I see them being very common because I work with clients that are doing those regularly. I think other elder law attorneys are working with folks that do that regularly. I don't know why it isn't more common. My guess is it may simply be because people aren't familiar with it. They don't realize that you can protect assets, that you have the ability to protect assets in advance of needing the care. And maybe they haven't been exposed to that. They haven't spoken with someone. They haven't sought that advice to find out that this is a real opportunity for you to be able to protect assets. Not only are we protecting assets should you need that care, but if there's litigation involved, right, the assets in that trust couldn't be pursued. So we use those irrevocable trusts for many reasons. But in this instance, typically those trusts are used to protect one's assets should you need to care in the future. Why people aren't using them, I don't know. I would encourage folks to do it if it's appropriate for them.
Yeah.
If it's appropriate for them. And that's why I'm saying they should speak with someone that practices in this area. and don't make assumptions if it's right for you or not right for you. Seek counsel.
Right. The irrevocable trust seems like it could be a complicated subject, so that's something definitely that you'd want to talk to someone like an attorney to make sure you iron all that out. All right, let's get into questions regarding your primary residence. You know, I stayed in my house, I'm giving you a scenario, 50 some odd years.
Right.
Is my house protected?
Depends if you're single or if you're married.
Oh.
So if you're a single person and you need to leave your home, it's not protected, no. In that instance, that would be a viable asset for Medicaid to look at. If you're a married person and one spouse needs to leave the home and one spouse remains in the home, then the spouse that's living in the home, it's protected for them. So it could be protected in that instance. There are limitations on the value of the home, though. If your home has an exceedingly high value, although the prices of homes are going up left and right right now. So, but generally, yes, if you're married, your home is protected if one spouse is remaining in the home and the other spouse needs to leave the home and go to long-term care. If you're a single individual and you leave the home, it becomes an available asset for Medicaid to take a look at. That's why when we were talking about those irrevocable trusts earlier, we may consider putting the house in it 5 years or more before we need that care so the home could be protected. So it depends. If you're single, if you're married, if the home could or could not be protected should you need care.
Okay, that's great to know. How does someone actually begin planning for the potential long-term care? Where should they start?
Well, where should they start? I think their age. Look at their age, look at their health. So if, you know, in your 50s, in your 60s, people aren't necessarily thinking about long-term care yet. I see people when they're getting into their early 70s, mid-70s, they're seeing friends' health fail. They're seeing maybe some friends or family members have passed. They start to think about, my gosh, I recognize that we spent a lot of money on dad's care or a lot of money on my sister's care as they aged and they needed that. So I think typically I see people in their early 70s starting to think about long-term care and the financial burden that goes with that. So that's number one. Number two, health. So perhaps you have a history of a dementia in your family. Perhaps you have early onset dementia. So in those instances, maybe before the 70s, we're starting to look at it. So it's your health that we take a look at. It's your age that we take a look at. And then frankly, your assets as well. Are there assets that justify setting up that irrevocable trust? And there isn't a specific dollar amount that is appropriate for you to set up a trust or not set up a trust. It's different for everyone. Is there something that you want to protect? If there is, that discussion about an irrevocable trust is appropriate. And I encourage everybody, educate yourself. Ask the questions, gather the information, and then make the decision if it is or isn't appropriate for you. Those trusts require you to give up some level of control. You can't have control over the assets in the trust and then say, but I'm going to the nursing home, I don't want you to use any of that money for my care. Or I'm going to go into memory care unit, and I have control over the money in that trust, and I don't want to pay for my stay at the memory care unit. You give up some level of control when you're using those irrevocable trusts. So they're a great tool, but you have to have the right people around you to help setting those up. You have to have the right people in place to access the money, invest the money inside that trust. So they may be appropriate for you, they may not be appropriate for you.
Okay. Looks like we have another call, or actually a text from Karen in Huntertown. She's asking, do you recommend long-term care insurance? We actually talked about that earlier.
Yeah. So long-term care insurance is a great product. It can be a wonderful product. It can pay for care in your home. It can pay for care at a nursing home, a long-term care facility, et cetera. What I would say about long-term care insurance, in my experience, fewer and fewer people are purchasing long-term care insurance because it's very expensive and people are living a long time. So the insurance companies are struggling with them paying out for that care. So if you're serious about long-term care insurance, shop for it early, shop for it when you're very healthy. Do not wait And then you have to do a return on investment calculation. This is how much that cost of that policy is going to be. And if I don't need care for 30 years, 35 years, how much will I have paid? Understanding that those premiums will continue to rise. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I was seeing clients getting letters from their long-term carrier saying, we're going to see a 20% increase, 30% increase in premiums, and we're not telling you it's done. So I just don't see those policies as much as I used to because of the cost that's associated with them. But if you can afford it and for the right policy, I think they're a great product.
All right.
Yep.
You've been very informative. That time, that 30 minutes just flew by.
Great.
So thank you for spending some time with us
I
again.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yep. And we got to have you back again.
All right.
All right. Hopefully we've provided you with a lot of food for thought and on a very important subject, as we always try to do on Life Ahead. And you can rewatch this and other Life Ahead programs, of course, on YouTube and on our website. So until next time, from all of us here at PBS Fort Wayne, we wish you a great and healthy life ahead. Thanks for watching.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne is made possible in part by
Nugen Law, focusing on estate planning and elder care law, emphasizing independence and quality of life. Serving Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. More information at nugenlaw.com.